Ruth stood at the altar, her hands trembling. Her heart beat like a frightened bird in her chest. The ivory dress she wore was a borrowed dream, beautiful, but heavy. Not just with fabric, but with the weight of judging eyes. The rich guests whispered behind fans and sunglasses. Her mother-in-law, Mama Doris, never once smiled. Daniel, her groom, barely looked at her. From the crowd, her younger brother Joel stood quietly at the very back, dressed in a simple shirt. He was the only family she had left. Their parents had died in a bus accident 5 years earlier, leaving Ruth to raise Joel alone. She had struggled through pain and hunger just to keep them both alive, and now the one person who had always stood by her was being kept at a distance, literally and emotionally. Joel had been warned not to come close. Daniel didn't want poor relations ruining the picture-perfect image of his wedding. Ruth had begged, even knelt, but Daniel said it plainly. "If he enters this hall, I'll walk out." She chose silence, as always. The priest's words floated around her like fog. "Do you take this man?" "I do," she whispered. But what she really meant was, "I'm scared." The reception was grand, but Ruth never smiled. She sat beside Daniel like a ghost beside a king. People drank wine and danced. Daniel's friends, Fred and Tina, made jokes about village girls who got lucky. Mama Doris laughed too loudly. Joel, heartbroken, left early without saying goodbye. Later that night, in their new home, Daniel took off his jacket and sighed heavily. "You looked stiff today," he said. I was nervous," Ruth replied softly. "Nervous? Or embarrassed?" He scoffed. "You should be thankful. A girl like you getting married into wealth is rare." Ruth looked down. "Thank you." That became her first mistake, thanking a man who believed he had rescued her from poverty instead of marrying her for love. Days turned into weeks. Ruth tried to fit into her new life. She cleaned, even when maids were available. She dressed decently, but never enough to impress Mama Doris. The older woman never called her daughter. Instead, she always said, "That girl, you don't belong here," often loud enough for Ruth to hear. Fred and Tina visited often. They would laugh and make remarks. "Daniel, where did you find her? Some church charity?" Tina once asked. Daniel didn't defend his wife. He only laughed. Ruth smiled and brought them tea. One evening, Joel came to visit. He stood outside the gate with a small nylon bag. Ruth saw him from the balcony and rushed downstairs, her heart bursting with joy, but the security guard stopped her. "Madam Ogre says no visitors allowed," he said. Ruth begged, "Please, he's my brother. Let me talk to him." The guard looked sorry, but shook his head. "Ogre's order." Daniel didn't come downstairs. He simply sent a text. "If he steps in, he sleeps on the street tonight. Your choice." Tears stung her eyes. She looked at Joel through the gate and waved weakly. "I'm sorry. I can't." Joel nodded slowly. "It's okay, sis. I just wanted to see you. I'll go now." Ruth watched him walk away, the one person who had loved her unconditionally. She went back upstairs, her eyes red. "Why do you always bring shame to me?" Daniel asked as she entered their room. She fell to her knees. "I'm sorry." "What are you sorry for?" he asked coldly. "I don't know," she whispered. "But I know you're upset. And I'm sorry." He scoffed and turned off the lights. That night, Ruth lay in darkness beside a man who held her body, but never her heart. She stared at the ceiling, trying to remember when last someone had held her hand with love. Maybe marriage was not what she had imagined. Maybe her silence wasn't strength. Maybe she was fading and nobody noticed. 3 months had passed since the wedding. Ruth had learned to live like a shadow in her own home. She walked quietly, smiled politely, and swallowed insults like water. Her only happiness came from the occasional call she had with Joel, though Daniel didn't like her speaking to him too often. That Thursday morning, Ruth wore a plain peach gown and packed Daniel's lunchbox. She placed it gently on the kitchen table and waited for him to come downstairs. As always, he didn't say thank you. He took the lunchbox, adjusted his designer wristwatch, and picked up his car keys. "I'm expecting a business guest this evening. Don't embarrass me," he said sharply. Ruth nodded. "Yes, Daniel?" He glanced at her dress. "And change into something decent before he arrives. You look like a village cleaner." When Daniel's business partner, Mr. Marcus, arrived later that day, Ruth greeted him at the door with a soft smile. Marcus was a kind-looking man in his early 40s, dressed in a neat blue suit. He smiled back. "Good evening, sir." "You're welcome," she said respectfully. Marcus paused, staring at her curiously. "Thank you." Before she could say more, Daniel walked in and spoke up casually. "Oh, that's Ruth." "My maid?" Marcus raised his brows. "Ah, your maid is very beautiful." Daniel rolled his eyes and waved his hand dismissively. "Beautiful? No. Oh, she's not. She's dirty and ugly. Don't let this light deceive you." Ruth stood frozen, her heart cracked like glass. She smiled and walked away quickly before her tears betrayed her. She ran to the kitchen and leaned against the wall, breathing hard. Later that night, after the guest had left, Ruth approached Daniel in their room. She stood at the door for a few seconds, gathering courage. Her hands trembled, but her voice came out steady. "Daniel, why are you doing this to me?" she asked gently. "Why did you tell your associate that I'm the maid? Why?" Daniel looked up from his phone, laughed coldly, and said, "Because you are too local to be called my wife. Just look at yourself." Ruth swallowed hard. "So why did you marry me?" He chuckled and stood up, pointing a finger at her. "Because you're calm and decent. That's all. I needed someone like that to be my wife, not someone to show off. You think I can walk into my friends' parties with you dressed like a Sunday village pastor's wife? No way." "But I can learn, I can improve," she said, her voice breaking. He clapped slowly, mockingly. "Learn. Improve. With what money? You think makeup and fashion sense grow in the garden? You poor village girl." Ruth bit her lower lip to hold back tears. "So, this is how you see me?" Daniel's eyes turned cold. "And that brother of yours, if he keeps coming around here, I'll stop paying his school fees. Let him go back to the village and farm. That's where you both belong." That night, Ruth didn't eat. She didn't sleep. She cried into her pillow silently so he wouldn't hear. Her heart felt heavy, her chest tight with pain. Her dreams of a peaceful marriage shattered like broken glass. The next morning, Ruth made breakfast. Daniel came downstairs and didn't say a word. As usual, she served him his food quietly and returned to the kitchen. After eating, he stood to leave for work. "I'll be out late. Don't open the door for your brother if he comes. I'm warning you." She looked up at him, her eyes red but strong. "Even if I'm poor and from the village, I am still a human being, Daniel." He scoffed. "Keep your preaching to yourself." When he left, Ruth sat on the kitchen floor and cried again. But this time, her tears were not just from pain. They were from deep thinking. She remembered how she and Joel used to sleep on the floor of a church hall when they had nowhere to go. She remembered how Joel almost dropped out of school because they couldn't afford pencils, and how she cleaned people's clothes just to buy beans and rice. I am not useless, she thought. I just came from the bottom. The next morning, Ruth woke up before the sun. Her eyes were swollen from crying. Daniel was still sleeping, so she quietly dressed up and left the house. She needed air. She needed someone who could remind her that she was still human. She took a bus to Joel's small hostel. Her heart beat fast as she knocked on his door. When Joel opened it and saw her face, his smile faded. "Sister, what happened?" he asked, pulling her inside. Ruth sat down and wiped her face with her scarf. She looked at him for a moment, her lips shaking. "I can't take it anymore," she whispered. Joel knelt in front of her. Tell me everything." And she did. She told him how Daniel had introduced her to his business partner as a maid, how he mocked her appearance, how he threatened to stop paying Joel's school fees, how he said she wasn't good enough to be called his wife. Joel was quiet for a long time. Then he stood up and said, with a strong voice, "You need to leave that house. That man doesn't deserve you." But Ruth shook her head. "I can't, Joel." "Why not?" he asked, confused. "What is holding you there?" She took his hand. "You." Joel frowned. "Me?" "Yes. You're still in university. You'll graduate in 2 years. If I leave now, who will pay your school fees? I don't want your life to scatter because of me." Joel looked down. "But sister, this is too much. I can't let you suffer because of me. Let me drop out. I can find work. I can—" "No," Ruth said firmly. "I didn't go to school. I gave up everything after our parents died, but you, Joel, you must finish. You must graduate. That is my promise to Mama and Papa. That is the only reason I'm still in that house." Tears ran down Joel's face. "I can't wait to finish school," he whispered. "I want to get a good job. Buy you your dream car, your dream house. I want to give you the life that man refused to give you." Ruth smiled weakly. "That alone gives me strength to wake up every morning." They hugged tightly. In that moment, there was no pain. Only love and a strong bond between two siblings who had nothing in this world but each other. Ruth stayed a little longer. Joel made tea, and they talked about their childhood, their dreams, and the day they would both be free. Around 4 p.m., Ruth returned home. The moment she stepped into the house, Daniel was already waiting in the living room. His arms were crossed and his face was cold. "Where are you coming from?" he asked sharply. She tried to remain calm. "I went to the market." "Oh, really?" he said, with raised brows. "Where are the things you bought?" She froze. She didn't have anything with her. She had forgotten to even buy a single onion. Daniel stood up slowly and walked towards her. "No bag? No foodstuff? No receipt? Who did you go and meet, Ruth?" Her heart raced. "Please, I just—" He didn't let her finish. "Oh, now I see," he shouted. "You've started sleeping with men, right? That's how poor girls like you behave." Ruth shook her head quickly. "No, Daniel, that's not true. I would never." He gave her a hot slap. The sound echoed through the house. Ruth fell to the ground, holding her cheek. "Don't talk when I'm talking," he roared. Her eyes filled with tears. But she didn't scream. She didn't fight back. She stayed on the floor and cried quietly. Daniel looked at her with disgust. "I knew it. You're just like the rest of them. Stupid, useless village girls." Then he turned and stormed upstairs. Ruth lay there, her head pounding, her chest aching. But in the middle of her pain, she remembered Joel's voice. "I will buy you your dream car, sister. Just wait for me." That was enough to make her sit up. She slowly got up, cleaned her face, and walked into the kitchen. She made dinner even though she knew Daniel wouldn't eat it. Then she went to her room, sat on the bed, and opened her notebook. She wrote, "Tonight, he slapped me. Not because I was wrong, but because I'm weak in his eyes. But one day Joel will shine, and I'll leave this prison. I will smile again. I will dance again. I just have to survive until then." Ruth closed the book and hugged it close to her chest. The following day, Ruth woke up with pain still burning on her cheek. She stood in front of the mirror, touched the red mark gently, and took a deep breath. Her heart was heavy, but her spirit was tired of suffering in silence. She wrapped a scarf around her face, wore a long gown, and left the house. She didn't tell Daniel where she was going. Her destination was Mama Doris's house, Daniel's mother. It was time to speak up. When Ruth arrived, Mama Doris was sitting on the front veranda. She glanced at Ruth and hissed, "Ah, what brings you to my house this early morning? Didn't your husband give you something to do at home?" Ruth greeted her politely. "Good morning, Mama. I came to talk to you." Mama Doris frowned. "Talk to me about what?" Ruth took a deep breath. "Mama, your son slapped me last night." Mama Doris didn't flinch. "And so?" Ruth blinked. "Mama, he slapped me hard for something I didn't do. He accused me of sleeping with other men just because I came home late and had nothing in my hand." Mama Doris looked Ruth straight in the eyes. "You're lucky he just gave you one slap," she said coldly. "My own husband used to beat me with a belt and stick, and I stayed in the marriage. That's how real women endure." Ruth's mouth opened slightly in shock. "Mama, is that what you call marriage? That's not strength. That's suffering." Mama Doris stood up immediately. "What did you just say?" "I said, that's not how women should live. That's foolishness. Maybe that's why your husband died early." The words escaped Ruth's mouth before she could stop them. The air grew still. Mama Doris's eyes were now wide and burning with rage. "You dare insult my late husband in my own house? You dirty village rat!" she shouted. "Leave my house right now." "Mama, I didn't mean to insult you." "Get out!" she screamed, pointing toward the gate. "I will tell my son what you said. You will leave that house with nothing. I told him not to marry you. I told him to marry Senator Okoro's daughter. That one is educated, beautiful, from a rich home, not a hungry girl with dead parents." Ruth stood slowly, her hands shaking. "I only came here because I thought you'd understand. I didn't grow up with much, Mama. But I love your son, and I've done nothing but respect him." Mama Doris spat on the ground. "Respect? You're lucky we even let you live in that mansion. Girls like you should be grateful to even wash plates in rich people's houses, not marry into them. And now you insult my husband. That man fed and raised your husband to become what he is today." "I'm sorry if I offended you," Ruth said, her voice cracking. "But being poor is not a crime. I never pretended to be rich." Mama Doris walked toward her with a hard face. "You will regret entering this family. I swear, Ruth. I will personally make sure you are thrown out of that house like the street dog you are." Ruth turned and walked away quickly. As she stepped out of the compound, tears rolled down her cheeks. She couldn't believe it. The woman who should protect her, who should teach her son how to love a woman, was defending violence. She compared her suffering to Ruth's like it was a competition. What kind of family did I marry into? She thought. When she got home, Daniel was already back. He had come home early, which was unusual. "Where did you go again?" he asked, his voice low but dangerous. Ruth hesitated. "I went to see your mother." Daniel raised a brow. "Why?" She looked down to tell him what happened last night, the slap. He walked up to her slowly, his expression unreadable. "And what did she say?" Ruth hesitated. She supported you." Daniel smiled. "Good. My mother is a strong woman. She knows what it means to keep a family together." "She also said I will be kicked out of this house," Ruth said quietly. Daniel laughed. "Maybe you should be. You're nothing but a mistake I made when I was confused." Ruth felt a sharp pain in her chest. She took a step back. "I gave up everything for you," she said softly. "I've never disrespected you. Not once. Even when you humiliated me in front of your friends, I stayed. I've cooked, cleaned, and cared for this home. What have I done to deserve this kind of hate?" Daniel looked at her like she was dust. "You were never good enough for me. My friends told me. My mother warned me. But I thought marrying a poor, quiet girl would give me peace. Instead, you're here crying like a baby every time. You are not a queen, Ruth. Stop pretending." That night, Ruth didn't eat. She didn't cry either. She sat in silence, holding her notebook, writing again. "Today I learned that not everyone who looks like a mother carries a mother's heart. I have no one but Joel. But I will wait. 2 years. I will give him that. After that, I'm gone." 2 days after the terrible visit to Daniel's mother's house, Ruth stayed quiet. She moved like a shadow in her own home. She washed, cleaned, and cooked as usual. But her heart was far away. She hadn't said more than 5 words to Daniel since the slap. She didn't even look him in the eyes. But deep inside, something had changed. She had stopped begging. That afternoon, Ruth was in the kitchen preparing a small meal for herself. The house was silent. She thought Daniel had not returned from work, but then she heard his voice. He had come in quietly. Before she could even turn around, he entered the kitchen with a straight face. "I have a visitor," he said. Ruth looked up. "Visitor? Who?" Daniel narrowed his eyes. "My girlfriend." Ruth froze. He moved closer and added coldly, "Now stop asking foolish questions and cook a better meal for her." Ruth blinked. "What? What did you just say?" "I said, cook something nice for my girlfriend," he repeated without shame. "Or is there a problem?" Her hands trembled. "You brought another woman into this house, into our home." He laughed. "This house is not yours, it's mine. And yes, I brought her here. So go and make something decent because I don't want her to eat rubbish." Ruth shook her head slowly. "No." Daniel's eyes widened. "What did you just say?" "I said, no," Ruth repeated. "I will not cook for your girlfriend. That's disrespectful. I have endured enough shame. You have pushed me too far. I will not do it." Daniel's smile disappeared. "So you want to embarrass me?" "I've endured everything, Daniel," she said. "You insult me. You lied to your friends about me. You slapped me. You threatened my brother. And now you want me to cook for the woman you're cheating on me with. I won't do it." His eyes grew dark. "How dare you raise your voice at me?" "I'm not raising my voice," she said quietly. "I'm speaking the truth." His hand landed hard on her face again, the same side. "Get out of my house," he shouted. "You are done here. I'm finished with you." This time, Ruth didn't fall to her knees. She didn't cry in front of him. She didn't beg him to calm down. She turned away, went into the bedroom, and packed her small bag. She walked out of the house without saying goodbye. For the first time in months, Ruth walked with her head high. She was tired, yes, but she was no longer afraid. She didn't care who the girl was. She didn't care what the neighbors would say. All she knew was that enough was enough. She took a bus straight to Joel's hostel. When she knocked, Joel opened the door and was shocked to see her with a bag. "Sister, what happened? What did he do again?" Ruth sat on the small bed and dropped the bag beside her. Her lips shook as she spoke. "He brought another woman to the house, told me to cook for her. When I refused, he slapped me again, then told me to leave." Joel's eyes filled with tears. "What kind of human being is this? What kind of man brings another woman into his home and tells his wife to serve her?" Ruth lowered her head. "I'm tired. Joel, I can't take it anymore. I didn't beg him this time." I walked out. Joel held her hand tightly. "You did the right thing. You are not a slave. You are not garbage. You have me, and I've got you." She looked up slowly. "But how will we survive? You're still in school. I don't want to make things hard for you." Joel smiled gently. "It's okay. I already started working part-time at a big 5-star hotel. It's not much, but it's enough for now. We can manage until you find something." Ruth's voice broke. "I didn't want this life for you. I wanted you to finish school first." "I will finish," Joel said confidently. "I'm balancing school and work. It's hard, but I'll do it. Just rest, sister. I've got your back. You've suffered enough. Don't cry anymore. Everything will be fine. God is watching over us." Ruth couldn't hold it anymore. She broke into tears again. But this time they were not tears of fear or shame. They were tears of peace, safety, and hope. That same evening, after Ruth left the house, Daniel made a phone call. He paced the living room with a proud smile on his face. He didn't feel sorry. He didn't feel ashamed. When his mother answered the phone, her voice came through loud and clear. "Hello, my son. How are you?" "Mama," Daniel said. "She's gone. Ruth has left." There was a short pause. Then Mama Doris laughed. Good riddance. I told you she was not your level." Daniel chuckled. "She carried her bag and walked out like a queen. She didn't even beg this time." His mother clapped her hands over the phone. "Very good. Now you are free. It's time to marry a proper woman." Daniel scratched his head. "Mama, who do you mean?" "The senator's daughter, of course," she replied quickly. "I've already spoken to her. She said she's ready now." Daniel frowned. "But Mama, that girl is wild. She doesn't respect people. She can't cook. She's always going to clubs. How can I marry her?" "Daniel, listen to me," Mama Doris said with authority. "She has changed. I've talked to her and her parents. They all agreed. She's serious now. No more clubbing, no more bad behavior." Daniel was still not sure. "But I don't feel peace with her." "Peace?" his mother repeated. "My friend, forget peace. Marriage is not about peace. It's about power and connection. Her father is a senator. That family will lift you up. Marrying her will open doors for you." Daniel sighed. "But Mama—" "Stop that," she said. "You are not a small boy. I said she has changed. In fact, she told me herself she's now ready to be a good wife." He sat down deep in thought. "I want you to fix a date quickly," Mama Doris continued. "We can't waste time. That Ruth embarrassed our family enough already. This new girl will make our name proud. Daniel nodded slowly. Okay, Mama. I'll think about it. Don't think too much, she said. Call her tomorrow. Start planning. This time, no mistake. After the call ended, Daniel leaned back in his chair. His mind was full of confusion. He remembered how Ruth used to serve him food every evening, how she would clean his shoes without being asked, how she smiled at him even when he didn't deserve it. She was calm. She was loyal. But she was poor. And in Mama Doris's eyes, poor meant useless. Daniel shook his head. Maybe I was too hard on her. Maybe I went too far. But pride would not let him call Ruth back. He stood up, looked around the house, and for the first time, it felt empty. Very empty. The next morning, Ruth was sweeping Joel's small hostel room when her phone rang. She looked at the screen. It was Daniel. She stared at it for a few seconds. Her hands began to shake. Part of her wanted to ignore it. Another part wanted to hear what he had to say. She took a deep breath and answered. Hello? She said quietly. Daniel's voice came through full of pride. So you finally picked up? Good. Listen, Ruth, if you can beg me now, maybe, just maybe, I'll consider bringing you back. Ruth stood still. What did you say? I said, beg me, Daniel repeated, sounding full of himself. You think you can survive without me? You better come back before it's too late. Ruth laughed bitterly. Too late? For what? Just look at you, he said. What do you have? You're there doing rubbish. Meanwhile, a senator's daughter is calling and begging me to marry her, someone from a respected family. If you're smart, you'll come back now and save yourself. Ruth went silent for a moment. Then she replied, calm and firm. Daniel, I will never beg you again. Never. Are you sure you know what you're doing? He asked, surprised. She smiled. I'm very sure. I was a fool. Before? Not anymore. I'm done. Completely done. Daniel tried to laugh. You think you're strong now because your poor brother is helping you? Don't joke with me, Ruth, she whispered to herself. This fool thinks the world revolves around him. Then she spoke up clearly. You think I was joking when I said I'm done? You're a foolish mommy's boy, Daniel, and this is the last time I will ever hear your voice. And just like that, she hung up. Then she blocked his number. 1 week had passed since Ruth blocked Daniel's number. She hadn't heard from him since then, and she didn't care. One quiet afternoon, while Joel was getting ready for his night shift at the hotel, Ruth called him from the corner of the room. Joel, she said softly. He turned and smiled. Yes, sister. I want to start a small business. Joel sat beside her. Really? What kind of business? I want to sell male and female wares. Shirts, jeans, shoes, simple fashion items people can afford, she said, her voice filled with hope. Joel's face lit up. That's a great idea, but do you have the money to start? Ruth nodded slowly. While I was still with Daniel, I saved a little money. I didn't tell anyone. I kept it for emergencies. I didn't know that me leaving that house would become the emergency. Joel smiled proudly. Smart woman. I'm so happy for you, sister. Ruth smiled back. I want to go to the market tomorrow to buy some items, just a few to start. I will sell from here and maybe online, too. Joel stood up, excited. I will tell my co-workers. Some of them are always looking for good clothes. Even some of my classmates will be interested. Ruth's eyes widened. Really? You think they will buy from me? Why not? Joel said. I believe in you. She thought for a moment, then asked, What about your boss? That wealthy one who owns the hotel? Do you think he will buy? Joel laughed. My boss? He's not like those rich men that raise their shoulders because they have money. He wears anything that looks good on him, even simple t-shirts. Ruth smiled brightly. Please talk to him. Tell him your sister is starting something and she needs customers. Also tell him to tell his rich friends. Joel raised his hands jokingly. Ah, sister, calm down. I haven't even told him yet, and you already want me to tell him to call his rich friends. Ruth laughed and leaned forward. Your sister needs money badly. I'm tired of being broke. Joel laughed harder. Sister, you love money too much. They both laughed together, holding their stomachs and wiping away happy tears. It was Monday morning, and Joel was getting ready for work. Ruth had just finished arranging her clothes in a small corner of the room. She looked tired and discouraged. Sister, are you okay? Joel asked gently. She nodded slowly. I'm just thinking. He sat beside her. Talk to me. She looked down. It's been a week since I started. Just a few people bought something, and now nothing. No orders, no messages. Maybe I should stop. Joel's heart broke. No, don't say that, he said. You just started. It takes time. Ruth sighed. I thought people would buy more, but maybe I'm not doing it right. Joel reached for her hand. You're doing fine. Don't give up, please. She smiled weakly. I'll try, but it's hard. He nodded. I know. As Joel walked to work that day, his heart was heavy. Ruth was his world. She was the reason he didn't drop out of school. She was the reason he still believed in dreams. When he arrived at the hotel, he didn't smile at the gatekeeper like he usually did. He walked slowly to the staff room and sat alone, his eyes on the floor. His boss, Mr. Adams, noticed it from afar. Mr. Adams was a respected man. He was rich, but humble. He treated his workers with kindness, and he always noticed things. Later that morning, he called Joel to his office. Joel, he said, what's going on with you today? You look sad. Joel stood quietly for a second. Then he spoke softly. It's my sister, sir. Mr. Adams leaned forward. What happened to her? Joel took a deep breath. She just started a small business last week. She sells male and female wares. At first, she was excited, but now she's losing hope. Sales are slow. She's thinking of quitting, and that's making me really sad. She's the only family I have left, Joel continued. She raised me. She suffered so much just to keep me in school. I just want her to be happy. I don't like seeing her like this. Mr. Adams nodded slowly. I understand. Joel's eyes filled with tears. She doesn't have anyone else, sir. She's my world. She's been through a lot. There was silence for a moment. Then Mr. Adams smiled warmly. Tell her to come here tomorrow, he said. Joel looked up quickly. Sir? Let her bring some of her clothes. I'll take a look, Mr. Adams said. If I see something I like, I'll buy it. And maybe some of my friends will too. Joel's eyes widened. Are you serious, sir? Yes, Mr. Adams said. She deserves a chance. You've been a good worker, Joel. Very respectful. I want to help your sister. Joel's voice cracked. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Mr. Adams smiled. Don't cry. Just tell her to come early. Joel nodded. I will, sir. God bless you. As he left the office, his heart was light. Joel smiled the entire day. He kept praying in his heart. God, please let this work for Ruth. Please let this be the beginning of her breakthrough. That evening, Joel got home with a big smile on his face. He opened the door and saw Ruth sitting at the edge of the bed, counting her small goods again. She looked up, tired. Joel dropped his bag, walked straight to her, and said, "Sister, get ready to smile." Ruth blinked. What happened? He sat beside her and took her hand. "My boss, he said you should come to the hotel tomorrow. Bring your goods. He wants to see them." Ruth's eyes widened. "Are you serious?" Joel nodded. "Yes. He told me to tell you not to give up. He wants to help." Ruth smiled with relief. "Wow, that's so kind of him. Please thank him for me." Joel laughed. "You'll thank him yourself tomorrow. Just dress well and carry your best items." Ruth nodded quickly. "I will. I promise." That night, she could barely sleep. She arranged the clothes over and over, cleaned her shoes, and even wrote down how she would introduce herself. Her heart was full of hope. The next morning came quickly. Joel took her to the hotel. She sat in the waiting area until Mr. Adams's assistant led her into his office. When she entered, he looked up and smiled. "Good morning, Ruth." "Good morning, sir," she replied softly, standing with her bag in hand. "Please sit down," he said. She sat quietly. Mr. Adams stared for a second longer. Then he said softly, "You are very beautiful, Ruth." Ruth blinked. "Sir," he smiled again. "Yes, and I've heard good things about you. Your brother has told me a lot, how strong you are, how you suffered, how you raised him, and even about your ex-husband." Ruth's eyes widened. "Ah, Joel talks too much. How can he tell you almost everything about me?" Mr. Adams laughed gently. "Don't be angry. Don't blame him. Your brother loves you so much. He sees you as his hero. And honestly, Joel is like a brother to me." Ruth looked down. "Okay, sir. I understand." She opened her bag and brought out some shirts. "So, sir, which one do you want?" Mr. Adams looked at the clothes but shook his head. "No, I didn't call you here to buy clothes." Ruth raised her eyebrows. "You didn't? So I left my house, wasted transport, and came here for nothing. That's not right, sir. You should have told me you only wanted to see me." She stood up, clearly upset. Mr. Adams quickly stood, too, and raised his hands gently. "Calm down, Ruth. Please, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to waste your time. I only wanted to see you for myself and support you." She looked at him, confused. "Support me? How?" He smiled and brought out his phone.